Hello there, and a happy new year to you all. Now there are green shoots of good news about the health emergency, so the mainstream media might now start to flex its anti-Tory muscles. Just as the new year looms, it's the time for predictions. Predictions about how we'll be politically screwed in 2022. And my prediction is an obvious one that should happen. Well, in any normal news cycle it probably would. But before I start, I will make it clear that I am only questioning the political approach to the events of the last 21 months or so. Right now there is more and more reason to be hopeful that the near 2-year-long health emergency is over. And with it, I already detect that the press is starting to stray from its previously Ofcom and editorially controlled and enforced health narrative. Journalists are beginning to stray into areas where they would not have dreamt of going just a couple of months, if not a couple of weeks ago. They are beginning to ask the questions many of us wanted to see them ask 18 months ago. In fact, the Mail is today asking if we are overdosing ourselves right now. That would never have been printed even a week ago. And I hear that Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, has agreed to get the New Year's Eve fireworks on again. Better late than never. And very soon it will dawn on the likes of the BBC and The Guardian that it could be open season on the Tories across the board over their handling of the whole business. And not just on dodgy contracts and who would have locked down hardest and soonest and longest. No, they will soon be crawling over all those health statistics, looking for dodgy accounting there, as well as within the financial aspects such as furlough payments, for example. And it might not be long before they are claiming to be the investigative journalists of the age as they try to unravel Boris's handling of the health emergency, even though they'll be miles behind many others who were previously silenced by them. They might start hounding Boris for answers over the use of the words of and with regarding this health emergency, even questioning dose effectiveness, heaven forfend. There's already some of this going on, but once the mainstream press realises there's a whole anti-Tory, anti-Boris and potentially anti-Brexit story here, the floodgates will no doubt open. And no amount of calling it out as opportunistic politicking will stop it. The talk could also start focusing down on things like excess deaths and who is responsible for them. And I think Joe Biden's team in the White House might have cottoned on to this, because he's just declared that there's no federal, US-wide solution to the health emergency and that it has to be beaten at state governor level. I.e., he's dropped the whole shebang before it gets politically messy. After all, there's only so much blame he can dump in the lap of Donald Trump. But here in the UK, there may be state governors, if you like, for Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, but in the largest part of the UK, England, it's still down to Westminster and the Prime Minister himself. And once the press has got its teeth into Boris, it will ignore the copious failings of Drakeford and Sturgeon. After all, the media never has a beef with those two. In fact, it always fates Sturgeon. It only wants to target Boris and the Tories. And Keir Starmer's Labour Party will just sit back and keep tight-lipped as they watch the media show unfold. Or that's what they should do, because they will have to be careful. Remember, Keir Starmer always wanted longer, harder restrictions than the Tories. He made it clear that his party, if in government, would have followed the scientific numbers even more slavishly than Boris did. But they might try and pounce on how all the statistics were derived. The 28-day rules between test and any death, for example. They could in the end turn around and say they wouldn't have used statistics like that and wouldn't have backed the government if they'd realised the truth of these decisions, and therefore would not have shut us in our homes for as long, and no one in the mainly left-wing press would question that. And the likes of Beth Rigby and Kay Burley could be out there at the forefront of this media reborn. And with a nice little dose of Dominic Cummings and the restriction-breaking party photos mixed in, then things could get hot for Boris in the coming months. And it wouldn't take more than a few NHS whistleblowers to come forward to really put the pressure on. And as this new narrative ramps up, social media might be more than happy to fuel it. But only on the basis that it bashes the right. It won't be a search for any real truth. But I do have an equally plausible prediction. That after another flurry in the immediate new year, all news on the health emergency will gradually fade away in the coming weeks, and that no questions will be asked publicly. All on the basis of the national interest or some other such excuse. In the hope that we the proletariat will just all move on and engage with the next media-driven hype. That our 24-hour-long political short-term memories will kick in on the news of some as yet undiscovered scandal, pushing the last 21 months completely out of our heads. That it will be erased from our minds along the lines of how the Afghanistan withdrawal or the shooting of Sasha Johnston have been. How soon we forget. And those with vested interests know that. And also consider that there are vested interests in places like Australia, Greece and Austria, soon possibly to be emulated by Germany, that are doubling down on the whole thing. And there will be some in the UK who want us to do exactly the same as them, so will do all they can to stop any asking of questions. Be in no doubt. And some of these people are already sowing the seeds of more stay-at-home restrictions in January in the UK. But I'm not sure how much traction that will now get, especially given the way the press narrative is now beginning to shift. But in both those scenarios I've just outlined, we will never get to the real truth. They are just two sides of the same coin, screwed either way. And that's what should concern us all. Many people, a considerable number of whom are healthcare professionals of the highest order, were asking all sorts of important questions right from the start of this health emergency. But they were brutally shut down by the press, social media, and in some cases by their own professional bodies. All on the basis of the need to follow, or more likely the need to obey, the science. Obey without question. But science is never settled, especially in an emerging situation, so it should surely be questioned and debated throughout. Otherwise, mistakes, big mistakes, can and do occur. Were mistakes made with things like modelling, for example, time and time again? I think in hindsight we can all agree that the answer to that is a resounding yes. But no debate was allowed, no one was permitted to question the settled narrative, on pain of being labelled a nutter or worse. So the mistakes, if made, were therefore bound to continue to be replicated time and time again. And we had to believe the succession of graphs and predictions trotted out in front of us, didn't we? Without question. That cannot possibly be right, can it? After all, isn't asking questions and getting answers to them part of finding the way to the truth? So why was this not built into the political narrative, instead of telling us everything's been decided behind closed doors, and here are the irrefutable answers. Do not argue, just obey. But it does seem as if there are two types of people here. Those who wish to ask questions and want answers, and those who are content with whatever they are told, and who are happy to go along with it and try to force others to comply with it too. and it seems to me that over the last 18 to 21 months, the former have been almost forcibly shut down, and the latter have been given free rein and encouragement. It appears to me to have been an exercise in nudging the whole nation, or maybe the whole world, into one single, highly controlled echo chamber, to the point where no one can question anything about it. So we have to ask ourselves, have we gone so far down that route that there's no going back to truth and normality? Or is the fact that mainstream media is now beginning to ask questions an indication that we can get out of this constant fear loop? So, once again, Happy New Year! And how do you think 2022 will pan out for you? Please like and comment below. Please subscribe and like this video, buy a mug and support me on Patreon or PayPal, and thank you for watching.